A bit louder.
A care home for the elderly. But where's the care here? And where are the words of comfort?
All right, bitch. Let them go, bitch.
How often is this the experience of those who are older and vulnerable?
Everybody neglects me.
I'm not moved you. I'm not going to be treated like it.
We go undercover to discover what can take place when relatives aren't there.
I'll come in a minute, just need to help here first.
The challenges for care workers.
I've lost count of the times I've found people lying in urine-soaked sheets.
And what happens when things go wrong?
No! No!
When the caring stops.
She just slapped her. She did. I mean, that's assault. She's just assaulted that lady.
At this care home, 8 staff suspended. At another, grieving families whose relatives died after neglect.
As a society, we need to say this has got to stop. We can't have this going on.
At a third home, secret filming by a family that captured their grandmother's hours of distress. As she called for the toilet more than 300 times.
I'd go in there, she'd start crying. She said, I just don't want to be here anymore.
We're living longer, and our needs in old age are getting greater. This is a problem no one should ignore.
This is a challenge for the whole of society. There should be no hiding place for poor care.
Night deepens across the capital, and at this nursing home in South Croydon, the residents are settling in their rooms. It's December 2012. The X Factor is on the TV.
Tonight, it's the X Factor final!
98-year-old Yvonne Grant is finishing a cup of tea. Just before 9:30, Yvonne needs the toilet. She can no longer walk, but getting to the toilet is really important to her. It's a matter of dignity. She needs help.
Oh, God, help us. Oh, please, nurse, come. I need your toilet, please.
Yvonne started calling almost half an hour ago. She doesn't know her family has left a secret camera in her room to check on her care. She is now desperate. Yvonne is just a short distance from the nurse's station. Staff should know she doesn't use her call bell. She calls out instead. But no one is answering her. Another 18 minutes tick by. Still no help.
I need your toilet, man. Can you help me, please? No.
Yvonne Grant lived her whole life in South London. She grew up not far from the care home.
She always used to talk fondly of when she was living at home with Mum and Dad when she was younger, of her sisters.
It's the area where she raised her family and worked, eventually becoming head of dressmaking at one of Croydon's large stores.
Always put her lippy on. She used to love looking smart. We used to say she looked like the Queen Mum, the way she used to have her hair. And she was as young on her 90th as what she was on her 80th. She just never seemed to age.
Her granddaughter Vanessa and her family lived nearby. But when Yvonne required more medical help, doctors said they needed to find a nursing home. She was increasingly unable to walk. So she moved to the 61-bed Oban house, owned since 2011 by one of the country's biggest providers, HC1. Soon Vanessa began to feel things weren't quite right. Almost every visit, she pointed out problems, but felt things weren't changing.
On the surface, it did look smart, but when you're in it for a while, you start to see the cracks. I'd go in there, she'd start crying, and she said, I just don't want to be here anymore. I knew that something wasn't right, but exactly what, I don't know. Or I didn't know until I put in the camera.
In Yvonne's room, the unattended camera counts the minutes as she waits.
Can you help me, please? No.
On that Saturday night,
Can you help me?
Yvonne calls out nurse 321 times. She pleads for the toilet 45 times and bangs her cup on 26 occasions.
Oh.
Finally, after more than an hour, a care worker appears.
Hello, Yvonne.
Her name is Sokovia.
Sorry? I badly need it. What do you want?
Despite Yvonne's long wait, Sokovia doesn't seem interested in helping her to the ensuite toilet.
You're wearing a pad. What do you want to do in the toilet? Well, number 2. Do you? Yes. But you've got a pad here. Yes, I couldn't do it in there. Oh, please.
Sokovia and a colleague are telling her to defecate in her incontinence pad, the last thing Yvonne wants.
She hated the fact that she couldn't walk to the toilet. She used to say it was so undignified. She would always make sure that she used the toilet. She wouldn't, as she'd say, degrade herself with using a pad.
Again, Yvonne has to wait.
Would you give us 5 minutes? You will come back? Yeah, we will. No, really. On the toilet. 5 minutes.
With that promise, Sokovia leaves. 15 minutes later, there's no help, and now the light's switched off.
Oh, this is wicked, this is. Please let me use the toilet. Oh, God, please, please.
Consultant nurse Lynn Fair is an expert on elderly care. She's advised the government on protecting vulnerable older people.
This lady, she probably, like most of us, haven't had an accident since we were 2 or 3 years old. So you've got the dehumanisation, the emotional trauma, the physical pain. This is a type of assault, but not the type of assault people understand.
After more than 20 minutes in the dark, an hour and 3/4 after Yvonne started calling out, Sokovia returns with another care assistant.
You want to go to the toilet, don't you? You're going to have to help us. No, I want the toilet.
In the darkness, they try to make a desperate Yvonne, who hasn't walked for years, walk to the toilet.
I want the toilet too. Are you going to help us? Yes, I want to.
They should be using a hoist. When they realise she can't walk, they sound disgusted.
You can't even walk to the toilet. Listen, Yvonne, we've got other people, yeah? They're waiting for us to do. So now, whatever you want to do to the toilet, do it in the pad.
They drop her back on the bed and complain they're short-staffed.
I want to use a proper toilet. Just do it in a pad. When you finish, press the bell, we'll come and change you.
That's not what Yvonne wants, and she still hasn't been to the toilet.
Oh, this is terrible.
She's upset, and again she's alone.
Don't shut me in. Please shut me. Don't shut me in. Please. Please don't shut me in.
2.5 hours after Yvonne first called out, a different member of staff, a nurse, finally takes her to the toilet.
The care worker that you see there, the one who does all the talking, she was prosecuted for common assault.
And was she found guilty?
She was found guilty.
Last July, Sokovia was given a suspended sentence and community service. She's currently appealing against the conviction. The secret camera was in Yvonne's room on 3 occasions over 2 weeks. That night was by far the longest wait that she had for the toilet. Some care workers are also seen being kind.
I'm going to get you up, put you on the toilet. Yeah.
But there is other poor treatment. There is nothing gentle about the way she's being handled here. This care assistant was also convicted of common assault. Lynn Fair is regularly called in to investigate concerns over care. She says too often action isn't taken.
And I am very relieved to hear the police took that so seriously and the CPS took it seriously in that place, because it doesn't get taken seriously everywhere. Sometimes in society we have to say enough is enough. Things only change because society finally says we will not tolerate this anymore.
Croydon Council's safeguarding team concluded Yvonne's treatment amounted to neglect and institutional abuse.
What was the reaction of the management when you showed them the footage?
Horrified, absolutely horrified.
HC1, the company that owns Oban House, has told Panorama,
"The failings in care from that period were totally unacceptable. We apologised unreservedly to Mrs. Grant and her family.
And
we always seek to deliver the kindest possible care."
The home now meets all necessary standards. When Vanessa told her grandmother she'd put the camera in and knew what had been happening, Yvonne was pleased.
She said, "Thank God for that, it's going to stop now. It's not going to happen to others." The next afternoon was when her last days began. It's like she was holding on for it to be found out.
Yvonne died in January 2013, aged 98, surrounded by the family she loved. Vanessa remains angry that the earlier complaints she'd made weren't listened to. It left her grandmother vulnerable to poor care, and she believes the secret camera was vital in getting heard.
I wish they were actually in every room, in every care home. That way maybe care would just be given automatically because people are aware that they're being watched.
She is part of a quiet revolution where worried families are putting in their own cameras. Many experts discourage the use of secret cameras, but accept that's what happens when families lose trust.
Putting in a secret camera does not sit comfortably with me. Things are being filmed that are very intimate, but I absolutely understand why the families are doing it, because no one is listening.
But how do you build trust so people don't put in cameras? Here at the University of Worcester, they believe better training for care staff is part of the answer.
Those fundamental aspects of care, like the ability to maintain somebody's dignity. We've got 3 beds.
The aim is to teach the skill and understanding staff need when they move on to real people.
You've got to have very highly skilled care, but delivered in a kind and compassionate way, to have to go hand in hand.
Professor Dawn Brooker is a leading expert on dementia. She says there are many good care workers, and in the best homes, the culture reinforces the right way to do things.
Everybody knows what good looks like. Everybody in that home matters.
Most of the 17,300 residential and nursing homes in England meet the regulator's basic standards. Professor Brooker, who is against secret filming, has done groundbreaking research into the care of challenging residents with dementia. She says far too many have limited quality of life.
30 years ago, it was relatively rare to see anybody with dementia in a care home. They were full of people who were pretty self-caring, really. And yet we've continued that model. Care homes now have become the home of people with really, really very complex needs. We are coping with some of the most challenging and vulnerable people within our society.
But across the country, even basic standards of care for older people are not being met by a hard core of homes. Exclusive figures released to Panorama by the regulator show since 2011, 1,260 homes have been given warning notices. This is serious. It means here at the Care Quality Commission, they've started legal action because of failings in areas such as care, welfare and staffing. More than a third of the 1,100 homes that remain open still don't meet all standards. That's 406 homes, with more than 15,500 beds. The new Chief Inspector of Social Care wants change.
There are organisations who are running care homes. They're getting paid to provide care and to provide support. We are expecting people who are running services, who are managing these services, to deliver. People shouldn't be getting into this business if they don't care.
In the UK, more and more of us are living longer. A third of the babies born last year will reach 100. That is going to put care homes under even more pressure.
We're only as good in a society as the poorest quality of care that we tolerate. We have to admit that we do have a lot of shortfall in quality of care and that it causes people a lot of misery. So unless we get care homes right, unless we really raise the bar, actually all our futures are going to be really grim.
Frequently it's staff with poor or minimal training providing the care, and when that goes wrong, the consequences couldn't be more serious.
Next, elderly care home residents were left lying for hours on painful bed sores.
Her family say she was treated worse than an animal in the care home she stayed in near Caerphilly.
A cleaner says she saw one staff member slap a patient whose wife had made...
Each of these cases, which were investigated or reached court in the past year, represented a failure to care for someone vulnerable. A failure to change, even when there are warnings. Leslie Lincoln is an experienced nurse who made numerous complaints about the nursing home where her mother lived. Enid Trodden was denied even the most basic care.
She'd still be in bed, soaking wet, freezing cold. She wouldn't have had her breakfast. They would be lying on the table in her room.
Her 86-year-old mother endured months of appalling care before she died.
I probably wrote about 6 letters, possibly a dozen phone calls. I was desperate, really, because I just thought, I'm making all these complaints, nobody seems to be taking any notice.
That home was Orchid View in West Sussex.
The coroner has ruled that neglect contributed to the deaths of 5 elderly people at a residential home in Sussex. Some residents were left dirty, distressed and unattended.
Leslie's mother, Enid Trodden, was one of the 5 whose death was hastened by neglect. Last October, a coroner ruled that 19 Orchid View residents who died had suffered poor care in a home riddled with institutional abuse.
It just made me feel more guilty that how could I have left her there? In amongst that, how did I not know that this was more serious than what it was?
Of course, the place looked fantastic, looked marvellous, but
You have no idea what's going on.
we didn't. None of us knew what was going on in there.
And all the families who had relatives there now live with the distress of what happened.
Behind that facade of the new building, there was hell on earth going on.
You're just thinking about your relative and you're literally living on a day-by-day basis, particularly there, because every day there seemed to be some new catastrophe or something that had happened.
Southern Cross, the company that owned Orchid View, collapsed in 2011.
My mother was the last person to go into that care home, and I felt I was hoodwinked into that, going into that place.
Yeah.
They knew they were in dire straits.
They just told you what you wanted to hear and take the money.
People died at Orchid View for lack of care. We can put Men on the moon, rockets in space, reach Mars, and we can't look after the elderly. That's what I feel.
Lynn Fair was one of the investigators sent in.
Despite our best efforts, we were unable to get the managers of that company to see the neglect that their staff were administering.
It took an admin assistant turned whistleblower to expose the full extent of what was going on in Orchid View.
Morally, I know that I did the right thing, but personally, I have not worked for 2 years and the case has had a huge impact on my life.
Eileen Chubb has first-hand experience of just how difficult it can be to blow the whistle. She was a care assistant at a different private sector home. She spoke out and lost her job as a result.
I've been a whistleblower. I've been there, and I know the fear and, you know, the distress that people are put through. I saw horrific abuse. I reported it from that moment on. We were basically driven out of our jobs. Yeah, I got a copy of it, yeah.
Her experience led her to start a charity called Compassion in Care. In the past 14 years, she's had more than 1,600 calls from whistleblowers working in care. Across the country, she finds some homes are complained about over and over.
Every day, cases are coming in where there's been, you know, sometimes up to 15 staff, 20 staff raising concerns. 6 years later, more staff raising the same concerns.
One call she received in March 2013 was from a woman called Caris.
She was really nervous, just said that she was a care worker, and there was a number of others as well, and that she'd blown the whistle.
Caris was upset by how she'd seen elderly and vulnerable residents treated.
When people beg to go to the toilet and then they're sitting in their own faeces and people think it's fine.
This is the care home where she used to work. The old deanery overlooks the Essex countryside. It's a residential home which sits alongside St Mary's Court nursing home. Together they make a 183-bed care village set in beautiful gardens. The brochure says care is at the heart of everything we do. But during more than 2 years as a housekeeper at the old deanery, Caris says she saw care workers shout at, goad, and even pull some elderly residents about.
You get the people mocking them, winding them up, to being downright abusive, so the shouting.
What went through your mind when you saw that happening?
It's shocking and really upsetting. What makes you say those kind of things to people?
Caris and 10 other staff put a long list of complaints about pay, staffing levels and poor care to their then bosses in August 2012. Amy, a care assistant, was one of them. Like the others, she was concerned about not having enough time to do all that was needed and people being left soaked in urine.
There were so many residents there. How was you supposed to do all of them? And with the amount of carers there were, it was just physically impossible. It was horrible. There's one resident and there'd be a massive puddle on the floor, and the amount of times that people just used to walk past and just shrug it off. You wouldn't want to be treated like that, so why do you treat them like that?
They also complained to the local authority and the national regulator. That September, the Care Quality Commission made an unannounced inspection. Staff levels at the old deanery that day were described as woefully inadequate by an inspector, and some residents were waiting too long for call bells to be answered. Essex Council's safeguarding team also stopped new residents moving into the home for 3 months. It should have been a clear marker that things needed to change. So did they? Alex Lee is about to find out. She will see what the inspectors don't see. She's going undercover as a care assistant at the old deanery.
I am worried and I feel really daunted by it. I just hope I can do a good job. I really, really do.
Alex, an experienced journalist, has never worked in care before, but Panorama arranged training in addition to the 3 days mandatory training the home provided before she started work. She'll soon discover the pressures that care assistants face for £7.16 an hour.
Well, this is my first day wearing the cameras at the old deanery. I'm just going up to the first floor of the care station to start my shift. Got pasta, tuna and cheese. It's like a bake. Like a maze.
This 93-bed residential home is one of the largest in the country. Alex finds she's pitched straight into the job with limited guidance. At first, it's a struggle.
You say through the middle? She wants to go for a wee. Whereabouts do I need to take her?
Yeah, I'm just finding it slightly chaotic. Nobody really tells you anything. Nobody explains what's going on, you know. It's frustrating to say the least, because the problem is you can make a mistake. You could probably end up hurting someone.
The home says employees are well supported. It has told Panorama there are
a large number of staff on duty at any time who can provide guidance. Detailed care plans exist for every resident.
Which song was the theme song from The Wizard of Oz?
At the old deanery, Alex finds many good things like comfortable rooms, a cinema, hairdressing, and these daily activities.
Take a cup of tea.
Most residents fund themselves. Some pay roughly £700 a week.
You all right?
And who's this chap down here?
This is you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I really enjoy spending my time with the residents. Experiences they've had, what they've done with their lives. They've all had such a rich history and they've got so many stories to tell.
Very good.
But there just never seems to be any time to sit down and just listen to them.
Well, can you get me ready or not?
Yes, I've come to help you.
Alex's job is to help many residents to eat, drink, dress.
Let's get you to the toilet first.
To clean them and help them wash. It's also about being sensitive to their needs.
Let me just tuck that down for you. That's brilliant.
Many residents only need a little support. Others need a lot.
The residents there that are there just for residential needs have no problem. They've got a social life there, their food's provided, they can get around. But there are also a lot of residents there that have much more complex needs.
Those residents need a lot of skilled help.
What about this top?
And Alex does meet many care workers who are trying their best.
We've got this snazzy number.
That one, mate.
The lady has spoken.
But from day one, Alex hears call bells ringing for a long time. When a resident presses a button or pressure pad, their room number flashes. If no one answers within 6 minutes, the system goes into emergency mode. The bell sounds so everyone can hear.
I'm just with somebody. I can't come at the moment, I'm afraid.
Sometimes delays are because care assistants are busy looking after other people.
The alarm's going quite often because the problem is there's just so much to do that you physically do not have the time to go and get to all the buzzers that are sounding.
Sometimes staff are doing handovers or writing care notes. Whatever the reason, there are several hours in most shifts when Alex notices call bells sounding almost constantly.
Are you okay?
And some residents are clearly distressed by how long they have to wait. This woman was sadly in the final months of her life. She rang her call bell a lot. On this day, she called 10 times, twice the home's average.
You need the toilet? Let me turn your buzzer off.
But without help, she couldn't go to the toilet safely. She fell twice trying to get there on her own.
Nobody answers. I ring and I ring and I ring. And nobody comes near me. Everybody neglects me.
Until a call bell is answered, there's no way of knowing if the resident is wet, dirty, or more worryingly, has had a fall. Even so, this care worker called Lorna is saying she put a call bell behind the back of a man whose movement is so limited he has the button hung around his neck.
You know what I'm doing? I put that and that.
We can't know if she really moved the bell, but 3 times she says she did.
The bus is on, so I come up.
Lorna could be joking, but he can't do anything for himself, and that call bell is his lifeline. The company which runs the home says while a bell does ring audibly once a resident has waited 6 minutes,
it does not at all follow that if a call is answered after 6 minutes, there is a failure of care. The vast majority of calls are answered within minutes.
Alex also sees the consequences of people not getting help when they need it. She regularly sees people sitting in their own mess for lengthy periods. Often it's the same 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, he's absolutely saturated. Ooh. And number 2 as well. Ooh. Is he being changed today?
I don't think he does. Him, and there's another one that they're always drenched when they go to bed.
I've lost count of the times I've gone in and found people lying in urine-soaked sheets that have got pads with poo in that, you know, they've been sitting in. It's stuff like that that I find really frustrating.
Alex is heading to a resident's room to move his possessions to a new room. His serious medical condition means he relies on staff completely and will need care for the rest of his life. To respect his privacy, we're not using his voice.
Hello. You all right?
He says he needs someone to clean him. He's already rung his call bell twice.
So what's happened? You've opened your bowels, you say?
2 care workers have been in. Both cancelled the bell.
Oh, somebody's already just been to you, is it?
They went without helping him. It seems that was being left to someone else.
How long ago did you go?
He tells Alex he's been lying in his own feces for more than an hour. She cleans him.
So you've had to wait here for an hour?
Even so, he says it doesn't matter. He's not complaining.
Are you going down? Oh dear.
This is one of the care workers who left without helping him. She was in the room just minutes before Alex. Her name is Anita, and a year earlier the whistleblowers complained she had a bad attitude. She was later promoted and supervises some staff. There were a number of care workers the whistleblowers complained about in 2012, but they only made their written complaints after weekend pay and hours were cut. The home said that was to bring it in line with other local care providers.
There was no morale left. You'd been pushed so far, pushed to the point where you break or you have to fight back.
And what did fighting back mean in your terms?
It was to stand up and say, look, things are going on, it's not acceptable, and we can't deal with this.
In 2012, Anglia Retirement Homes Limited, the company that runs the Old Deanery, was owned by a local property developer. He insists it was properly run, delivering good care, and the behaviour of the complainants during negotiations showed the dispute was about money, not care. After a messy argument, 6 of the care workers were suspended, including Caris, partly for not raising concerns earlier. Amy was among 3 who left. just 2 continued to work at the Old Deanery. The home says the complaints were investigated, but
The allegations were in the vast majority of cases denied by the accused. The incidents were old and no verifying evidence could be obtained.
whatever the motivations behind the dispute, investigations by the CQC and the local authority that followed identified problems around staffing, answering calls, training, and the treatment of some residents. A year later, when Alex is working at the home, there is change of a different kind. Anglia Retirement Homes, which runs the Old Deanery and St Mary's Court next door, is sold to a private equity firm, August Equity, and it's noticed.
You say this place has been sold then?
Yeah, and the new owner's splashing out.
Yeah? On what?
They bought a new cutlery.
Oh.
Providing care for the UK's ageing population is an expanding business, and it's attracting private investment companies like August Equity. In the last financial report, the two homes made more than £1 million in trading profits pre-tax. At the Old Deanery, the new owners and new chief executive seem to be trying to deal with call bells not being answered. Care workers are given pagers which tell them who's ringing for help.
I've got the pager for help in 2 corridors.
So what, like if someone presses a button up there, it goes straight to your pocket?
Pager and beeps. It's really annoying. Yeah.
But Alex doesn't notice much change. And now she finds some call bells unplugged.
Call buttons being pulled out.
She finds the bells of 3 different residents unplugged on 5 occasions. The 3 are known for asking for help a lot.
Your buzzer's not plugged in.
Could have been.
I know, it should have been, but it's not. I've just plugged it back in.
I wonder who pulled it out.
I don't know.
They hate me, you know.
Who?
Certain nurses.
Alex can't know who left it unplugged, but she hadn't noticed it happening before.
Call bells for residents are a lifeline. Without those call bells, they're imprisoned. They have no way of communicating with the outside world. It could be that there's not enough staff. It could be that the staff do not appreciate the importance of the call bell to that resident.
Anglia Retirement Homes say they take allegations of call bells left unplugged or not answered extremely seriously. They continue.
Frequent audits of the call bell log are carried out, and any such incidents are examined and investigated.
But Alex is also seeing the sort of rough treatment of some residents the whistleblowers complained about more than a year before. Here, Lorna, the care worker we saw earlier, has showered this elderly lady. She appears to be rushing to dress her, pulling on her nightie while she's still wet.
I tell you what, put that in. What is it? The beach suit. No, not that one. No, that way. Oh, give me time. Just a minute.
The resident's not impressed.
This is not on, you know.
Is it normally like that with her?
Rough. I have a shower in the middle of this pot.
What's the matter?
And another lady is clearly upset by how she's treated by a different care worker.
That last shot visit. You will do this and you will do that. None of them. So I was monsieur walking around. I'm not monsieur. And I'm not being treated like it. Pulling me. Oh, she does pull.
She's already made it clear who she's talking about.
What, a man or a woman? Bloody woman. What colour hair? And gingery colour.
She's talking about Anita, the care worker who earlier walked away from a man who needed to be cleaned. Separately, Alex sees some residents like this woman with large bruises.
God, that is one big bruise, isn't it? How'd you say it was? Did you say it just appeared?
Apparently, that's what I got told anyway. It's a bit strange, though, isn't it?
Older people can bruise easily, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything sinister. But this should be recorded on a body map to keep a check on what may be happening. It isn't. Another lady is clear in her own mind how she got her bruises.
You've got bruises all over your arm. How did you get them?
Yeah.
The carers? What did they do?
Pulling me.
Pulling you?
We can't know how they were caused or why they weren't documented. But with an incomplete record, there's no way to keep a check on what's going on. Over 36 shifts with cameras, Alex saw at least 7 large bruises. Only 2 were recorded.
What I've been shown in the training that I've been given is that you roll people, you do it like that. You know, paws, not claws. So why she got almost like a grab mark?
During her time at the home, as well as worries over how people are handled, Alex sees some care workers who mock and goad residents. The sort of behaviour the whistleblowers warned about a year before. Remember Lorna, who gestured she'd taken a call bell away from one resident and was rough with another.
Put your hand in there.
The man she's lifting in a hoist swears at some staff, usually when he's agitated. He seems better when people explain what's happening. Here his private parts are being washed, but Lorna gives him no warning.
You absolute bitch.
I thought better of you. This is really intimate care, and the way it's done here clearly upsets him.
All right, love.
Then Lorna has her say.
All right, bitch.
What?
Hold it, bitch. Let them go, bitch.
Are you ready for this?
Morning, Joe.
The test of any home and its staff is how they look after residents with the most complex needs. People like Joe Madison.
Right, I'm going to get you up, Joe.
Oh, they're nice of you.
I know.
Alex is told she's one of the old deanery's more challenging residents.
Give me that and I'll do it myself.
I didn't quite know what to make out in terms of the personality and how they treat this woman. Because I see this lady, you know, and she's very quiet, sort of going around the care home in her electric wheelchair.
I think he's been naughty, don't you? Never naughty. Don't use that making words.
Joan's brought up 5 children, including her daughter Jill.
That's Mum at about 15. That's Mum at about 17. Beautiful.
She is, isn't she? Stunning.
Young woman, yeah. They're how I think of my mum. I'm very aware of how different she is these days.
She also looked after others as a social worker, but now she has early-stage dementia and is paralysed down her right side from a stroke in her 50s.
She's got this fierce independence. She thinks she still gets herself up and gets herself washed and gets herself dressed. She cannot do any of those things, though in her mind she thinks she still can.
In the behaviour notes written by staff, Joan is often described as aggressive. She can lash out if frustrated, and Jill has been increasingly worried.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's fair enough.
But there are definitely ways of dealing with her where she's a pussycat.
Yeah.
Ways of doing it wrong and all hell breaks loose. I've had the home ring me to say they've been experiencing problems with Mum, being very difficult, quite obstructive with her care and kicking out and hurting staff. And I said, well, that's very unlike my mum. She can kick off, but it's usually when she's been hurt. And I'm saying you need to look at the reasons why.
It was Lorna who first took Alex in to help with Joan's morning care.
It's aggressive. It's behavior, other behavior record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's going to hurt you.
Hello, Joan. Good morning, my love.
Joan needs to be washed and dressed.
Just hold her, otherwise she's going to hurt you.
Lorna is physically restraining Joan and asks Alex to help.
Hold her. Hold her.
I don't want that black thing on me.
I'm going to dry you.
Well, I'm going to dry it. Thank you. I'm going to dry it.
Lorna should be diffusing the situation. Instead, she's winding Joan up.
Do it, shout it. How? A bit louder.
Joan.
Oh, Carol, that's it.
You're just like a tiger.
Oh, you're a bloody idiot.
You, not me.
Why are you getting so angry?
Alex doesn't know what to think.
Lorna asked me to hold her arms or her hands to stop her from hurting her. I didn't feel very comfortable doing it. I think because Lorna was taunting her, almost reciprocating the insults that she was throwing at her, it was just escalating things.
We asked consultant nurse Lynn Fair to review Joan's care.
They didn't talk to this lady, they didn't tell her what was going on, they didn't anticipate what her problems were, and all that lady's got is to resist what they're doing to her.
The home told Panorama.
These incidents involved a small number of staff and are not reflective of the high standards of care which we expect and demand from all of our team.
But increasingly, staff need the skills to cope with residents who can no longer explain what's wrong.
Good morning, Joan.
On 28 mornings, our unattended camera in Joan's room shows how care assistants start her day. Joan's paralysed right side is painful, but on too many days she's pulled roughly and she reacts.
Cow! You're trying to help me. Wicked cow! It's the way I comb your hair. I know what my hair's done by you.
Joan's a determined woman who's overcome disability, but she's treated like a child. Treated spitefully.
I'd be embarrassed if you were my mum.
Her knuckles wrapped.
Will you cow?
She's told she smells.
Oh no, she stinks. You stink. I know I do, because I'm working here, it makes you stink.
Joan can be difficult, but this shouldn't be happening.
Hello, nice to meet you. How are you?
After reviewing Joan's care, consultant nurse Lynn Fair is meeting her daughter Jill. She says the home should have been asking questions about the reactions different care workers get.
The organisation have not been looking at the evidence that they've actually got. The evidence would be there saying there's obviously something going on because of when she expresses her dissatisfaction through aggression, at what times and who are the care staff that were involved.
And there is a clear difference in the way Joan behaves when she's with care assistants who show more understanding.
Joan, can you just wash your hands and face for me? No.
As requested in the family's care plan detailing her needs, they involve her,
Yeah. Oh, I missed that one though.
chat to her,
You picked it off.
and she's much more relaxed.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
Get your nightdress off, Joe. You're just doing our job, darling.
But with Lorna and Anita, the battle with Joan is predictable.
Here's your book, honey.
Lorna throws the bag strap at Joan's head,
Have peace and quiet, all right? See you in a minute.
and she's left to struggle on her own. We needed to show Jill what the secret camera had picked up. It's an insight into what can happen when she's not there.
I've had inklings, gut feelings. I'm bitterly disappointed. I spent 2 years with my sister looking for somewhere for Mum to go, and I've let her go there. And have that happen to her.
This type of abuse is very insidious. This is hidden. This is like psychological domestic abuse.
Panorama hasn't shown the undercover film to the Old Deanery, but has provided it with details. It says,
"We are shocked and saddened by allegations made by the BBC's Panorama programme of inappropriate behaviour by some members of staff at the Old Deanery care home and apologise unreservedly for those failings. We care passionately about our residents and will not tolerate this kind of behaviour."
Last November, CQC inspectors gave the Old Deanery residential home a clean bill of health for the first time in 18 months. But 11 days later, Alex is on shift. She sees the senior care worker Anita with another assistant about to get Joan up.
I will call the police.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
I needed the hoist, so I went to look for it in Joan Madison's room. The hoist was in there, and Anita and another care assistant were trying to get her ready. I could tell there was a lot of aggression in the room at that stage, and I couldn't stay, so I decided to leave a secret camera in the room before I left.
We shouldn't have to put up with this. This is ridiculous. At the moment, I'm dealing with an alley cat. Right, right, you need to go that way, Joan.
Anita seems increasingly exasperated by Joan as they start to dress her.
Joan!
Good hell!
Joan!
Well,
You are a vicious, nasty old lady. You really are.
Good.
And Joan appears to have scratched her.
You won't be saying that in any of security.
The situation is escalating. She threatens Joan.
I'm going to make an official complaint. I don't get paid enough to be assaulted constantly.
Would you please put that under my head properly?
No. No, you need to go under me.
Then Anita does this.
No!
She slaps Joan.
Joan!
Did she just slap her? Can I see that bit again?
She can.
She did. I mean, that's assault. She's just assaulted that lady. But who would believe Joan? Because Joan is labelled by everybody that I've seen so far as someone who's aggressive, she's nasty, she's an alley cat.
I feel like I've let her down. I've let everybody down that trusted me. I begged, I pleaded, I fought like a tiger to get the funding to get her in there.
The care home says that Anita
has been summarily dismissed, and other disciplinary proceedings will be completed shortly after the Panorama broadcast.
The home told Panorama as soon as they were informed of our evidence, they took immediate action. They suspended 8 staff and
hired an independent law firm to carry out a full investigation. Our priority remains the health and well-being of our residents, and we have more than 200 dedicated members of staff who remain committed to the highest standards of care.
Jill visits her mother at the Old Deanery several times a week.
If things aren't going to change, I will have to look for somewhere else for her. Where will my mum end up?
But the Old Deanery is her mother's home.
There's an element of hope, because I have to have hope. I don't want to move her, Alison. I believe that they could change things. They've got some amazing staff that need good, strong leadership. It isn't adjustment needed, it's fundamental change.
The Old Deanery emphasises the good care it provides. Its new owners say they've increased the number of senior staff on shift and introduced an independent whistleblowing service. The home told Panorama it's
very concerned that any broadcast of what is likely to be highly emotive material will give a wholly false view of the home.
And told us to consider
the many positive views that have been expressed about the home.
However, 2 months ago, after we informed it of our findings, the CQC carried out an early morning inspection. This time it found too few staff, and some residents waiting too long for call bells to be answered. They discovered one person crying and distressed because they couldn't find a care worker to help them to the toilet. In less than 2 years, the CQC has visited the home 6 times.
We have inspected the old deanery. We have identified concerns that we've had. We've issued a warning notice. They improve, but then they fall back on other areas, and particularly because of the issues around staffing, that's where you get the problems.
The CQC gets 8 serious legal challenges a week from places unhappy with inspection reports. It finds some homes seem to resist change, but it's introducing ratings to make it clear which homes are doing well. And new legislation will mean company directors could be prosecuted for failings in care. But as Alex finishes her time at the old deanery, she knows inspectors won't see all that happens in homes.
So I've just come off my last night shift, actually, at the old deanery. I'm absolutely shattered, if I'm honest. What these residents are getting is just the basic level of care, you know, and sometimes even that's not happening. And it's just not good enough.
For too many people like Joan, we aren't getting the basics right. So what will it take to change that? At the Department of Health, the Minister with responsibility for care in England agrees there's a problem.
There's a stubborn minority of care providers who do not meet acceptable standards, and those are the ones that we have to tackle. And we have to send out the message that there should be no place in our care services for providers of that sort.
With pressure on funding and growing need, he accepts change will take more than fine words.
This has to be a big collaboration between government, the regulators, local authorities and providers. I think collectively we can drive up standards and ensure that our loved ones get access to the best possible care that's available.
The families who've experienced poor care say that means all homes need to measure up to the best. For Leslie Lincoln, that's the only way to protect others from the neglect her mother suffered at Orchid View.
As a society, we need to say this has got to stop. All the basics are basics. You shouldn't have to be complaining about that sort of thing. It should be top-notch.
Oh, God, help me. Oh, please, nurse, I need you trying it, please.
And each time the cries of someone like Yvonne Grant go unheeded, the question for us all is, do we have the will to stop this happening?
Oh, this is wicked, this is. Oh, God, please.
For details of organisations which offer advice and support, go to the Action Line website or call the BBC Action Line to hear recorded information on 08000 560 780. Lines are open 24 hours and are free from most landlines. Some networks and mobile operators will charge.